Solving quadratic equations by factoring. Okay, now we're going to look at something that's called a quadratic equation. It's of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Okay, when you have the equation written out in this form, this is what we call standard form. In other words, when all of your terms are on one side and it's equal to 0, it's in standard form. Okay, notice the degree of this equation. The degree of a quadratic equation is 2. Okay, always 2. That 2 tells you the number of solutions that this equation should have. So a quadratic equation is going to have 2 answers, 2 values for x that will make the equation true. The method that I'm going to show you for solving these is by factoring, something that we've been working with this whole chapter. Okay, there are many other methods that you can use for solving quadratics that you'll get to in intermediate algebra. Okay, this one method is just going to be by factoring. Now in part 2, I've given you a list of steps that you can go by to use, for all of your problems, just kind of a guide. Step 1 is the equation in standard form. Okay, if it is not, then you need to rearrange the equation and put it in standard form. That means descending order of your variable and then equal to 0. Okay, part B or step 2 is going to be to factor the polynomial that you have on one side of the equation. The next step will be to set each one of those factors equal to 0. This will give you smaller equations that you will then solve. Okay, so kind of keep these list of steps next to you as you look at the examples that we're going to be going over. Okay, example 1, x squared minus 9x plus 20 equals 0. So I would ask myself, is it in standard form? Okay, yes it is, because all the terms are in order and it's equal to 0. So I'm going to want to factor the trinomial that's here on the left side, okay, by using the same rules that we've talked about in the previous sections. So that means looking for a greatest common factor first, which there's not one. Okay, it's a trinomial, so I'm going to factor this by multiplying first coefficient times last. 1 times 20 would be 20. Make my list until I find the two numbers that will add. Since it's positive 20, what's going to add to be negative 9 would be negative 4 and negative 5. So I would have negative 4x and negative 5x. Divide by x squared. Reduce, so that would reduce to negative 4 over x and negative 5 over x. So my factors would be x minus 4 times x minus 5 equals 0. Okay, all of this part is just the extra work that you could actually do on the side if you want to. Okay, so now I'm to step 2 that said to factor the left side. Then next step says to set each factor equal to 0. So I want to actually take these two binomials, break them apart, set them equal to 0. So that gives me two smaller equations that I can solve for x. So if I take x minus 4 equals 0, I want x by itself, so that means x would equal 0 plus 4, or just positive 4, and x minus 5 equals 0. If I add 5, would be 0 plus 5, which is 5. So I have two solutions, or two values for x that would make the equation true. Okay, so both of these numbers would be my solution. On the homework, they're just going to want you to type in these answers. You do not have to type x equals, so you would just type 4, 5, and it doesn't matter the order that you put those in. Okay, so both those answers, those numbers would be solutions. Okay, let's look at Example 2, x squared plus 2x equals 15 is not in standard form. So my first step will be to get everything in the right order, and I want it equal to 0. So if I have to move this 15, it's going to make it negative 15. Then I have it equal to 0. This is standard form. Factor, so if I multiply 1 times negative 15, would be negative 15. Make a list. Okay, it's negative, so I want what's going to subtract to give me positive 2, which will be a negative 3 and a positive 5. So I would have negative 3x, positive 5x divided by the first term, so divided by x squared, reduce negative 3 over x, 5 over x, bottom to top. I would factor this into x minus 3 times x plus 5. So those are my two factors. Then, because I want to solve for x, I would take each binomial and set it equal to 0. So x minus 3 equals 0, x plus 5 equals 0. To solve for x in the first one, I would have to add 3. So 0 plus 3 would be 3. To solve for x here, subtract 5. So 0 minus 5 would be negative 5. So my two solutions would be 3 and negative 5.